Hey there, Evan Nathaniel Grimm. Welcome to my August 2023 forecast. I'm going to be overviewing all the key highlights of August, all the major transits, and I'm going to be translating it for your sun, moon, and rising sign. As I always do with these types of forecasts, I'm going to share my screen so we can all follow along together. As I go through, again, going to be focusing on at the beginning all the highlights of August. And as I actually walk through, each rising sign, each sun, moon sign, I'm going to be picking sort of a midpoint of the month of August so that we can just kind of like keep it simplified. But again, if you want to understand like and get a picture of all the lunation phases and cycles, then watch this introduction here. So anyways, before I go through those new moons and full moons, I'm going to be talking about some executive trends here. Now, what is the dominant transit in August? First and foremost, it is Venus retrograde. Venus retrogrades every so often, of course, but at this time it's in Leo. It's retrograding in Leo for the first time since 2015. So, I'm sure many of you are aware, retrogrades in general, these are revisitations, looking backwards at unfinished things, and reconnecting with people, especially with Venus. But for this one, you may re-encounter themes from August and September of 2015, actually. You may even reconnect with some people from that time. And so Venus retrograde doesn't have to be scary. Venus retrograde is a useful time period in which you are reflecting on and retracing your steps in all Venusian areas. So rethinking finances, rethinking your budget, rethinking your relationships, finishing unfinished creative projects. Because especially in Leo, we're dealing with creative hobbies. We're dealing with also romance. So rekindling the romantic elements of relationships. And for some of you, you may start a new relationship, even though some astrologers may tell you Venus retrograde is a bad time to start a new relationship. In general, at a high level, yes, but at the same time, we need the retrograde to really evaluate, are we in the right relationship right now? And this may be a time when people suddenly wake up to the fact that, hey, my relationship is failing because, we've just lost the spark. Maybe there's somebody else in your life who can give you that feeling. And again, maybe you've lost touch with some of your music or your artwork or your paintings. And this is the time when you recapture that. So Venus retrograde doesn't have to be bad. And so be very considerate, be very mindful, and be very thoughtful about relationships, money, and art and creativity. And actually in Leo, we're even talking about sports, recreational sports. So some of you may be just watching a documentary about, football or soccer or something like that. And then all of a sudden you join an intramural league, which is actually kind of interesting because, Venus squaring Uranus during this time. Some of you may join new teams, new groups, new bands, new troops of musicians, etc. So, that's the dominant transit. Other noteworthy changes in August, we have along that pathway, that backtracking, Venus will square Uranus and Jupiter, which in Taurus, which can be positive, which I'll talk about. Mercury will be in Virgo the whole month, actually, because of a retrograde eventually, so it's slowing down and then stationing. There will be a Mercury-Mars-Moon conjunction around August 18th. That looks a little bit agitated. So around August 18th, you want to make sure you're not that you're reining in your impulses. Mercury will retrograde August 23rd, just as Virgo season begins. And there will be a sweet spot during that time when Mercury and Venus are retrograde, that last week of August. That's a time when you really want to avoid nostalgia and you really want to avoid mistakenly going back to a relationship that actually doesn't serve you anymore. Mars will enter Libra August 27th, but will otherwise be in Virgo the whole month. Uranus will station retrograde August 29th. Keep in mind, Jupiter will be direct the whole month. It's going to station retrograde in September. Mars will eventually oppose Neptune at the end of the month. And of course, throughout the next year and a half, we have the South Node in Libra. So the pace is slowing down, as I mentioned, with Uranus retrograding, Mercury retrograding, Venus retrograding. The pace is kind of slowing relative to the first half of the year because of all these retrogrades. But this doesn't mean that August can't be exciting for you. It is a very productive time for experimenting with your approach to creativity, again, rekindling passion in your relationships, and even identifying financial opportunities that you once overlooked, because that's what's going to happen when Venus retrogrades. and squares Jupiter. So this is actually one of the best times to find a way to monetize any creative works you're publishing. It can be positive for optimizing your social media, and also just taking sort of an avant-garde approach to your creativity. Many of you are going to find ways to more strategically work with technology to, improve your efficiency and your output with, again, creativity. So it's not that technology has to be an enemy here. And there's almost like more creativity flooding in and going out into the world because people are regarding technology as that sort of assistant, as a friend and not an enemy. Some people are going to push back against technology during this time, but ultimately, I think it's best to think about in your life on a personal level about how automation can save you on tedious tasks, and so that you can spend more time indulging in your true passions. So maybe you're automating some of your work process, and that frees up time to go create. And you're going to come to realize as well, though, that technology can't fully disrupt the human creative process. So don't fear technology during this time. View technology as, again, it's really helping you, dedicate more time to the flow state, the creative dynamics, and less so to that sort of mechanistic process. Now, of course, in the West right now, we have, strikes going on in Hollywood. We have this concept of like, well, how do we, what role does technology play in the media, in the creative process? And as technology sort of unravels very quickly with Pluto going back into Aquarius eventually, this will continue to be a question. How do we accommodate, you, me, and everyone watching this video? How do we accommodate and maintain employments and jobs and job opportunities, even in the wake of this technological advancement with AI? And so, surely this will be an ongoing battle for, the infinite future. But especially this month, there is a major philosophical question around how far should technology go in supplanting creative processes? Now, as you can imagine, we live in a capitalistic society where people are competitive. So anytime technology, is introduced, it opens the door for disruptors. So what you're going to see, not just this month, obviously, but throughout the next few years, but especially starting this month, you're going to see new disruptors and startups and upstarts enter these types of fields because they have found a way. They will find a way to apply technology in a really interesting way, in a creative way, in an inventive way, where they're still producing like amazing creative stuff. So, we've almost by necessity learned to make technology our friend and not our enemy. That's not to say that technology is not corrosive, obviously, but I can't emphasize this enough. Like, this will be the top line news story throughout the month is, again, how do we make sure that human beings are living well and being accommodated for their genius work, while at the same time allowing people like myself, for example, to use the tools and the technologies that are available to, pursue new ventures, right? Or to pursue new products, or to pursue new creations, right? So we have this whole question here of like, well, clearly the technology is interesting, but how does it fit into an established incumbent legacy system versus sort of a wild west of like what you see on social media? Creators are suddenly becoming entrepreneurs and making their own income. And that's partly because of technology, right? So technology both inhibits and opens opportunities. So, so that's going to be interesting. And again, if you're a social media creator, think about how you can take a new approach to your social media to monetize that. And again, if you're like a musician or an artist, think about how you can use technology to monetize and broadcast and market your works. Because again, as this artist myself, because I'm also a musician, like I obviously respect the creative process, I respect creators, but I also think that technology is really fascinating, and I think that it can be used wisely. So anyways, and tastefully, right? It can be used tastefully. So the economy will also be under scrutiny during a Venus retrograde because Venus rules income in the markets. So there probably will be some weaknesses arising in the economy. It doesn't necessarily mean that the markets will swing wildly. It could just be that we see some markers, causes for concern. So we might get a read on like the debt to income ratio, or like how much debt are the people in the US carrying, We have seen debt rising, people spending a lot of money on travel over the summer, and spending way beyond their means. Interest rates climbing. And how does that affect your mortgage? So we're going to see some ripple effects from that, some top line numbers there. But anyways, also, just bring this back to relationships. People want to feel special during Venus and Leo. And they want to be with someone who makes them feel special, but also someone who's unique, because we have the North Node in Aries. So someone who stands apart. So with the South Node in Libra, North Node in Aries, a lot of people will probably ditch their current partner for someone they deem to be, more of a trailblazer, more interesting, sort of a one of one kind of vibe. So think about, some people maybe, some people want someone who is just kind of like very stable, very, predictable, and they may be one of a million. There may be a million people like them, but at least they're very, stable. Other people want someone who's like 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 10 or 1 in 1. Like think about, the artist Prince. Like there's only one Prince. There's only one Bob Dylan. So I think that, we don't have to take that, that literally, but people are going to be searching probably for someone who gives them that feeling like that person is special. That person is one of one, but they also make me feel special. So like expectations are going to be raising a little bit in relationships. And with the South Node in Libra, contracts even will be rewritten. And again, you're seeing that in Hollywood. So with the South Node in Libra, it's like agreements, contracts are being completely shifting here. They're completely shifting. So anyways, I think that when it comes to relationships generally, people will be less compromising and less codependent. So if you've been in a relationship just because of the sort of the placating nature of it, it makes you feel nice and calm, that's not enough for you anymore. You need the North Node in Aries to say, number one, how can I feel special, but also like really like my independence is being honored in a relationship? How can I set better boundaries? But also, you want someone who, in of themselves, right, is unique. In of themselves is so unique that they're not demanding that codependency. They have their own projects. They have their own ambitions. So it's like each person in the relationship needs their own, again, sort of, their own sort of agenda, ambitions there. Now, anyways, getting back to the screen, I want to go back to some lunar phases here. So August 1st, we have a full moon. So keep in mind the new and full moons will set the tone for the month. They will be the major crests of energy, the climaxes, and they will be the major pivot points. So first off, we have an Aquarius full moon right away. So the month of August is special in that we have 3 major lunar phases. So we have 2 full moons actually sandwiched with 1 new moon. So August 1, we have an Aquarius full moon, and I'm calling this a joyful experiment, but not always joyful at first. But because of a Mercury-Saturn opposition, some people may cut off contact with an ex and say, I'm done, I'm like actually done, or maybe they'll cut off contact with the current partner. But this will open the doors for you to find maybe a new relationship or new groups or communities. Others could unlock a new tactic, again, for monetizing their creativity. Then August 16th, we have a Leo new moon. And this is a tricky one because there's a bit of a whiplash, because new moons are beginnings, and yet, it's right by the Venus retrograde. So I'm calling this one playing games with hearts. So Leo is the heart. So, expect to be kind of playful and somewhat almost reckless because it's squaring Uranus. But it almost feels like people are wavering or going back and forth in their decision to pursue a certain relationship or a fling or even a creative endeavor. So I think a lot of people are going to sort of feel indecisive at this time. They're going to be like, well, I want to go back to my ex, but I also want to hold on to this relationship. And some people may just kind of experiment with different types of arrangements in relationships entirely. But generally speaking, I think that's kind of a tough new moon because it feels like people are playing tricks on each other, playing games. So you think about the Backstreet Boys song, Quit Playing Games With My Heart. That's pretty much the theme song for this one. And then we finally have full moon in Pisces, August 30th. I'm calling this one just give it a rest. The Pisces is the last sign of Zodiac, and it's conjunct Saturn. So Saturn to me is like a very heavy energy. It's very much about solitude. So this is a time when people are kind of going inward and saying, I need a break from reality. So Saturn's in conjunct to Mars, so subtle tension there. Venus close to stationing direct. To me, this is a major letting go moment. And honestly, a lot of relationships could actually also end around this time. But I think for the global populace in general, it's probably a time when you're just going to feel like you need a vacation. This is why I designed my retreat during about this time, is because right after this time, because I knew that like this is not really a great time to work. You might as well relax and be on vacation. So anyways, let's talk about August for each and every sun, moon, and rising sign. So I want to set the clock here to August 16th. So August 16th is a useful midpoint for me, but it's not gonna be the screen you're going to be viewing during this forecast is not going to. I'm going to be speaking to each of those lunar cycles and phases, obviously, but you're going to be seeing August 16th just as a visual reference point, because again, the midpoint of the month is going to be a general vibe for August. And also, when I go through these forecasts, you want to prioritize your rising sign, but also refer to your sun and moon, because those themes will also prevail due to what's called the derivative chart. So some astrologers say things like, oh, you can only track your rising sign for forecasts. It's not true. You can set any planet or luminary on the ascendant. You can reorient the chart so that planetary body is on the ascendant, and then refer to, relatively speaking, how many houses away are the other planets. So if I'm a Scorpio sun, even though I'm a Cancer rising, I can look at my Scorpio forecast because right now, for example, Venus in Leo is in my 10th house relative to my sun. So I could be reconnecting with professional colleagues, for example. So anyways, I want to make that clear because sometimes I get a couple comments here and there about, well, it's really only the rising sign. That's not true. So, and I've proven this time and again by, getting accurate feedback or feedback that these are accurate. So anyways, so I'm going to share my screen again. So we'll go into this section. Now, let's get into Aries, right? So let's begin with Aries. So what's happening in August for Aries, sun, moon, and rising? So first of all, the Aquarius full moon, which is going to be August 1st, that's in your 11th house. The Aquarius full moons are typically highlights of your emotional state, illuminations, endings sometimes, and conclusions, but generally speaking, full moons are crescendos. So it's just a major release of emotions. And it's putting a spotlight on something that you need to pay more attention to and listen to with your intuition and your emotional body. So the Aquarius full moon, we do have, Venus retrograde at that point still. And so for Aries, Venus retrograde is really going to have you rethinking your creative projects, right? And your romantic, the romantic side of your relationships, any dates you've been on that dates that you haven't heard back from in a long time may come back. They may return. You also do have that 5th house as being recreational sports. So for some Aries, you may pick up, a recreational sport again, or a new creative hobby, and others are just performing, as a musician or as an artist or whatnot, and engaging audiences. Now, we also have an Aquarius full moon in the 11th house on that August 1st full moon. So that full moon could be a time when you're feeling like your emotions are very heightened in relation to a friendship or a friend group. And so you may be breaking away from a certain friendship. You may be sharing your emotions with a friend or an audience. So some Aries could put on amazing performances at this time. And also with Aries, you have all those Taurus placements in your 2nd house right now. A lot of Aries could find very clever ways to make more money off of their social media or any group activities. So if you're in a fundraising community or you're working for a humanitarian organization, I like the beginning of the month for your strategery around, again, activating financial opportunities in a creative context. You will have Mars in the 6th. So, some of you are putting a lot of energy into your, fitness routine or your health routine. And then the North Node is in your 1st house now. So you're really stepping into your own identity in a really exciting way. Now, the Leo new moon is on August 16th, 15th. That's in your 5th house. So for a lot of Aries in the middle of August, that's when you could begin some type of, again, you could launch a creative project or you could pick up that hobby officially. Some of you could start a relationship with a date that you just lost touch with a long time ago. Others are finally releasing a music project or a song or a painting that they were stalled on for a long time. Now, around that new moon, we have a Mercury-Mars conjunction almost. And to me, that looks like there's a lot of mental activity in your sixth house of work. So a lot of you are probably analyzing things, trying to really show your skills even and like prove your skills. So some of you may be asked to put on a pretty interesting performance or to give a presentation about something analytical, or you're analyzing your creative process or your athletic sort of performance. You're analyzing these things to get better at them. So a lot of Aries, I think, are like really high performers in August when it comes to like fitness, again, creative endeavors. But for some of you, you could just, again, start that relationship with that date or that romantic fling that was just the fling at the time. You know, it is squaring Uranus that new moon. So it's a little chaotic. It's a little unpredictable. So I'm not necessarily saying that that relationship is going to last forever, but I think it's exciting. So it's like romantically a very exciting mid-month. And it's also maybe financially, again, there's like a breakthrough that you have in understanding how to recalibrate a creative project or how to monetize that better. And then we finally have a Pisces full moon on August, what was that? August 30th, you know, in the 12th house. So, you know, the Pisces full moon to me, Aries, you're kind of tapped out at that point in terms of like your sleep. You're probably a little sleep deprived. You're probably a little exhausted because you've been creating and having fun. So I think August is a fun month for you, but just be mindful that that Pisces full moon, August 30th, in your 12th house, that's a time to catch up on sleep, I think, and at least to watch your sleep, because you may just feel so drained at that point that you need to kind of go into your own little cave and reflect on, okay, you know, I'm having fun doing these creative things, but how do I, you know, am I tapped into my spiritual purpose too, or something like that? Or how am I addressing my mental health? You know, so for Aries, I actually think that that's a big deal, like the mental health component. You know, how am I really tending to that and making sure that, yeah, maybe my creativity is helping to balance me out, but like really just, you know, doing your due diligence there. So you know, oh, and also North Node is getting closer to Chiron, so you're also getting into this towards the end of the year. You're really coming to know and understand your healing journey and what those next steps look like. And you know, by this time, Mars is in Libra by the end of August. So by the end of August, I think you're very likely to demand independence in a new way from like professional partners, significant friends, or even a romantic partner that you're kind of like fed up with, or someone who's smothering you. It's like you don't want to be codependent at this point, right? So for Aries, you're fully breaking away from any relationships that don't serve you anymore. So I think that's really exciting. Now let's go into Taurus. So Taurus, Sun, Moon, and Rising, August, I think looks pretty good for you on the whole. So first we have an Aquarius full moon. August 1st, the Aquarius full moon is mostly going to be in your 10th house. The 10th house rules the career, the vocation, the public calling. So for Aquarius, for Taurus, the very beginning of the month, there could be a professional switch. So you may be starting a new job or ending a professional responsibility, and just taking on new work at your job. And, you know, with the sun and Venus down in the 4th house, you know, I think the beginning of the month, there's a really big moment there where you're thinking about how do I balance investments I've made in my home? How do I consider aspirations I have for home ownership? How do I think about all my investments relative to where I want to live and where I want to work? So right away, at the beginning of the month, like Tauruses are asking really existential questions. Where should I be living? Where should I be working? And how do I calibrate both of those and coordinate those? Because obviously, if you want to work at a startup, a hot young startup, but you want to live across the country, how are you going to make that work? So for a lot of Tauruses, that could happen. Some Tauruses could be accepted into some new professional path. Like it could be an exciting time for some of you. And some of these new professional opportunities could involve Uranus and Jupiter. So, you know, science, innovation, technology, social media, brand marketing. So some Tauruses are stepping into really exciting new scientific and technological and startup-y kind of like career paths. So it doesn't have to be bad. With Venus retrograde in your fourth, though, you are rethinking, again, investments you've made in your home, where you want to live, you know, and also just how you're generally beautifying your space at home or how you're creating art at home. It doesn't have to be all that big of a deal, but some of you are even reconnecting with family members who you lost touch with. Now, with Jupiter and Uranus in the first house, you're in a major expansion phase, you know, like you are really, again, innovative, avant-garde, nonconformist. You're trying to blaze a trail in something by applying new technology, applying something innovative. And some of you, again, will feel a little bit restless, though, because you have all these ideas. You're very frenetic right now. You want to go a million directions with it. Now, we also have a Leo new moon, August 16th. And that Leo new moon is in your fourth house. So now, even in the middle of the month, we have a potential move, a potential switch into a new home. You know, maybe just starting a new home project, you know, and with that square to Uranus, you're going to be sort of like basically your restlessness, your ambitions right now may cause a little bit of controversy and chaos in your home. So it's like, I want to go here. I want to move here. I want to, you know, be all over the world right now, or I want to be a scientist and a spiritualist. Like you're kind of all over the place. And that may cause a little bit of controversy and friction in your home and with your family. But also we have a Mars Mercury conjunction in your fifth house. So you're also feeling oddly creative at this time. And I think, yeah, I think your peak creativity for the whole year maybe is in the middle of August. I kind of like that. I mean, eventually Venus will go into your fifth and Virgo, but I still like this time right now. So you're actually dedicating a lot of energy to expressing your thoughts in a creative context. So on stage, at a business presentation, you know, as an actor, as a musician, maybe some of you will be doing that too. But anyways, I want to highlight now the Pisces full moon, August 30th. Again, conjunct Saturn in the 11th house. You're saying goodbye, most likely to a certain friend or community. Some of you may, you know, you may think about differently your political aspirations or your humanitarian involvement, your involvement in nonprofits. But I think generally for a lot of you, you may be, you know, you may be rethinking, right? Some of the, you know, you may be rethinking some of your hopes and dreams for the future. And because of all the new ideas you have. So you may be thinking about, again, what type of, how you want to help the world differently. Maybe thinking about nonprofits differently. Maybe thinking about the friends and associations you want to make differently. And so for a lot of you, I think it's kind of like, what do I still need to purge maybe with some like friendships because either I'm moving or I'm switching jobs or something's changing in another pillar of my life. Because for Tauruses, again, your identity is changing, your career is changing, and your home's changing. So what does that mean for your, you know, your friendships? Like, who knows, right? So there's kind of a shuffling there. But I think a lot of you need a break from your that 11th house at that time. You're going to say like, you know, I have to make priorities right now. Like maybe I can't see some of my friends all the time. Maybe I am working really hard right now. So there could be a major ending there in that 11th house. But also keep in mind, Tauruses, you have the North Node in the 12th right now. So you are coming into your own spiritual belief system. A lot of you are starting to get more crystal clear on like what it is that you think, what you think your purpose is here. So again, maybe that bleeds into the 11th house. It's like, well, I don't know. If I'm not on the same spiritual quest as some of my friends, maybe it's time to, you know, time to purge that. And then we have the South Node in Libra, of course, your 6th house. Mars will be in your 6th house by the end of the month. So, you know, some of you may be kind of like letting go of unhealthy habits, actually. So some of you may be, you know, thinking about your nutrition, your diet, your exercise differently. So now let's get into Gemini. Gemini, you have, let's see. Gemini, you have the Aquarius full moon. First of all, you have the Aquarius full moon in your 9th house. So the Aquarius full moon is a, you know, the full moons, again, are kind of endings, but also emotional highlights and spotlights. So the Aquarius full moon in your 9th house, you could be completing some type of like higher educational pursuits or getting a certification for something. Some of you may be dealing with a reinvention of your worldview. Some of you could be, again, finishing a degree, starting a program. Some of you could be traveling, committing to a trip long distance. Some of you could be coming back from a trip. And for some of you, maybe you're thinking about certain like legal matters. Like sometimes the ninth house will deal with some kind of legal matters. But generally speaking, I think that, with that full moon opposite the third house, there's a lot of conversations going on. It's very busy, vocal time for Geminis, where, you're testing your knowledge, you're testing your ideas. You're having little conversations with people in your local community, maybe with siblings. And for some of you, maybe you just took an exam and you're hearing back about whether or not you got accepted into a certain program. Some of you are also, again, balancing local trips with overseas trips. And then we also have Mercury opposite Saturn between your 4th and 10th. That to me could be a very serious conversation with a family member or a parent about, I got accepted into this program. What does this mean? Do I need to go into debt for that? Or do I get, are you going to help me out for that? Or, other people could just have discussions about their finances, about their financial future with a parent or some mentor. Other people could have very serious conversations with a boss about, hey, like this isn't working anymore. So I think a lot of you are kind of like switching out of a certain career, maybe because you have this newfound passion for this other topic or this other subject. That could certainly happen. But in general, with like Venus in the third, I do see a lot of Geminis having discussions with past partners through phone calls, voicemails, emails, texts. Like there's a lot of different ways that exes could reach you. And so maybe a partner comes back and they realize that you both realize that you're not aligned anymore on your worldview, right? That could be the ninth house moment. Or you could be moving or traveling away, and that like makes a relationship more difficult. I could see a lot of you traveling, like almost traveling so much that it's hard to invest in your relationship at that time. Now we have the Leo new moon, August 16th in your third house. The third house, again, about daily communication, daily tasks, and, learning and writing. That's an interesting thing, by the way. So Geminis, you could embark on a new creative writing project, or you could pick one back up. A lot of Geminis, I think, are investing in creative writing at this time. So for some of you, you could pitch your creative idea, your script to somebody. You could pitch your story idea to somebody, or, you could, even at that time, hear back from some ex you forgot about, or you reach out to an ex, something like that. We also do have the new moon square to Uranus, though, and Uranus is in your 12th house. So some of you could be dreaming about your ex, having conversations with them in your dreams, almost like a telepathic connection. And again, some Geminis are reinventing their spirituality. So for some Geminis, you're realizing that you're not on the same spiritual path as you used to be. And it's like, what does that say about your relationship? So I think if someone comes back, I think you're kind of done. You're not really, entertaining that anymore. And, something that's interesting is that there is a grand trine in Earth at that time, and I think that, that's accenting the 4th house, 12th house, the 8th house. So, maybe you're putting more of a foundation on some of your intuition, because those houses are a little bit watery, so that's interesting. North Node and Aries in your 11th house. Some of you are finding friendships that are more empowering, more communities that are more empowering. And some of you could even be kind of leading a group, leading a political party, leading some type of affiliation. I think that's interesting. So now we go to Cancers. Cancers, you have the Aquarius full moon on August 1st in your 8th house. So around August 1st, that will illuminate your investments, your shared resources, your business, and shadow work. So I think at the very beginning of August, Cancers are really focused on their finances and their budgeting, because you have Venus retrograde in your second house. So a lot of Cancers have been probably spending too much, being indiscriminate about, where their budget, how they're using their budget. They're probably not even paying attention to their budget for most, they weren't, at least in June and July. But now it's like, oh, hold on a second, right? Like, let's kind of mind our dollars and cents here. And then with the Aquarius full moon in the 8th, you're realizing, hey, like, okay, based on where I'm at right now, like, I need to save this much, by this year or this time, if I ever want to get a house. So Cancer risings and Cancers generally are really invested in financial planning at the beginning of August. So sit down and have a conversation with yourself, you and a partner, because the 8th house is joint resources. You need to get your goals in order, your financial goals. Some Cancer risings are also, on that full moon, they are also rethinking, with that second house, even their natural talents and how they're trying to monetize anything entertaining that they do or whatnot. Mercury will be in the 3rd, opposite Saturn in the 9th. So some of you could have very serious conversations about trips or travels. Some of you could feel as if maybe some of you are having to take an exam or something, or having to prove your skills to somebody. Like maybe someone is doubting you or something and saying like, no, I mean, if you're going to prove yourself, you need this certification or this training. And some of you could even be training people in something, teaching people something. Now, the Leo new moon, August 2nd is, August 16th is in your second house. So that could be the beginning of a new income opportunity, financial opportunity. And squaring Uranus in the 11th, I think you're getting more savvy about how you can monetize your social media life, your creativity. Maybe you're taking more financial ownership of a group or community, I really do think that it's I think that's kind of an exciting moon. It's a little bit unpredictable, but I do think that you are finding a passion for something in a group context, or you are finding a friend group that shares your passions. And also, by the way, you have the North Node in Aries in your 10th house right now. That's an exciting time. Cancers are blazing a new trail in their careers. So Cancers are making moves. They're probably trying to switch careers, switch jobs. We also have Mars Mercury conjunct in your 3rd on this new moon. So you're being hyper analytical, communicating with a lot of people, calling a lot of people, planning and organizing maybe like a trip with somebody or a tour, who knows. Now we have the Pisces full moon August 30th, and that's conjunct Saturn. So the Pisces full moon is in your 9th house. So at the end of August, I think you could be looking to relax on a trip, a long distance trip. You could be looking to teach people something on a trip. You could be looking to, talk about spirituality or your spiritual philosophies with people. And Mars will be in Libra at that point in your 4th house. So, maybe you're away from your home, but you have to go back home and tend to some things or whatnot. You have the South Node. Remember, this is the South Node in the 4th house right now. So right now, the home is like not really your priority. You're more focused on getting things done in your career in your 10th house. So maybe when Mars goes into your 4th, if you live with someone else, maybe they're like, hey, like you're not home enough or something. Jupiter, Uranus in your 11th this whole time, by the way. Cancers can go very viral on social media right now. They can be very innovative, scientific even, like tapped into new technologies, taking new approaches to, again, their social media or how they're approaching their creativity. So I think Cancers are in one of the best positions, along with Aries, actually, to find ways to monetize the things that they love. And by the way, if you're not like a creative person per se, think about this as more so like, how am I monetizing? How am I just like finding a job that I truly love? So a lot of Cancers and Aries, you are going to be, by the end of August, hopefully in a career that you are just like in the honeymoon phase with, eternally, so to speak. So let's go to Leos. Leo's obviously a big time for you because you have Venus retrograde in your 1st house. So first we have the the Aquarius full moon in your 7th house. 7th house of partnerships, alliances, etc. And I think that the full moon in the 7th house, certainly that could be an emotional moment with a partner, you know, a breaking off with a partner, you know, even like for some people, it could be like you're, you know, reuniting with a past relationship, maybe you're cutting things off with a professional partner. But I think for a lot of you, just generally speaking at a high level, it's like you are going through this vulnerability, this emotional openness. You're being more emotionally open with a partner and hopefully getting closer to somebody. But with Venus retrograde in your first, you know, that person is likely a past relationship, or maybe it's a friend who suddenly turns into a partner. Like, I think you, as a Leo, you've probably had your eyes on someone for a while, or maybe you've been thinking about your ex for a long time. You know, at this time, I think that there will be a breakthrough there. So it's sort of like the walls come down at the beginning of August, and you're having a really heartfelt discussion with somebody, and just being vulnerable in the sense of like, this is how I feel, taking a leap of faith. But again, you know, with Mercury opposite Saturn on that full moon, that conversation isn't guaranteed to work out. Like, you may feel, I'm not saying this will happen for every Leo, but like for some of you, you could feel slightly rejected in a way, or, you know, for some of you, this could just be financial, because Mercury in the 2nd house opposing Saturn in the 8th. Some of you could feel like you're not on the same page financially right now with your partner. Maybe that's what you're fighting about. So if you're already in a relationship, it could just be that you're fighting about finances, or getting disappointing news financially, and how does that affect my relationship? But generally speaking, Leos are rethinking all Venusian themes: creativity, relationships, sports, especially in Leo, amusements, money. You know, again, how do I rethink these things? So with Venus squaring Uranus and Jupiter in your 10th, though, you know, Leos, you could be reconnecting with a professional colleague or an old manager who could help you find a better job, actually. And some of you may be called to apply more technical know-how to your job. So some of you could be tinkering around with and experimenting with new technologies and platforms in your job. So now we also do have a Leo new moon, August 16th. And that is a new beginning related to your identity, yourself. You're announcing something about yourself. I think that you are, again, maybe some of you are starting a new relationship with someone from the past. But again, you got to be cautious with that because it's squaring Uranus. So it's a little unpredictable. But some of you could also, again, be starting a new job, announcing that. But I think a lot of you are just like starting a new creative project, and it's changing the way people perceive you in a really fun way. So Leo, is like, you're actually having a lot more fun in the middle of August. Like, that's when you launch your song. That's when you release your book. That's when you release your painting. You know, that's like the big moment for you. You know, and then we have Mars, Mercury conjunct in the 2nd. So I still think you're talking a lot about money, financial matters. You're cutting deals with people, who knows? And then we have the Pisces full moon, you know, August 30th in 8th house. Now, to me, you want to take time to tend to your mental health, just like Aries rising I talked about. So Aries and Leo, you have to really you have to make sure your mental well-being is kind of like in good shape at the end of August, because that Pisces full moon in the 8th house can be a little bit, you know, a little too introspective, actually. It's almost like a little bit of, you know, navel gazing, a little bit of like, you know, I'm a little like too fixated on my problems right now. Or I'm too fixated on my shadow sides. And I think you should just like take it easy. Just like, you know, take a break, like rest, you know, don't necessarily overthink things. But for others, if you are working through a lot of difficult experiences or emotions, like by all means, this can be a time when you, you know, suddenly make a connection to your past, or you realize, and you know, I need to still let this thing go. I still need to purge this thing, or I need to take better care of myself. So absolutely take care of yourself, but you also don't want to get too stuck, you know, in your own head. So, you know, recognize, is this a legitimate breakthrough when am I doing really good shadow work that I can commit to? Or am I overthinking something that, you know, I don't necessarily have to? So to the greatest extent possible, yeah, again, focus on mental well-being. And also, you know, for some of you, it could be financial. So it could be like, you're offloading an investment, or you're having a conversation about where your investments are going. North Node, by the way, in the 9th right now, you are really crystallizing your true philosophy on life. But again, for Leo's, August overall is very creative, electrifying, especially for work. I actually kind of like the work-related stuff. I mean, for some of you, honestly, you may be leaving a job unexpectedly this month, but connecting with an old colleague or an old partner who, or honestly, like maybe even an old ex, like an ex-romantic partner could help you find a job weirdly. Like there's somewhat kind of a musical chairs going on with Leo, but I think you land in a good place. And I think for a lot of you, you are also rethinking like, is my current relationship good enough? So I think a lot of Leos, if you're not in a passionate relationship right now, you're going to leave it behind. You're going to leave it behind. Maybe you find someone new. Maybe you go back to an ex who was more, helped you feel more self-actualized and fulfilled, you know, and that's not a crime, you know, again, it's not a crime per se to go back to an old relationship during Venus retrograde. You just have to be really mindful of, you know, the consequences of that. Or I should say the implications of that, right? So now we have Virgos to think about. So Virgos, we have, let's see. Sorry, I got to get my grid back. So for Virgos, we have Aquarius full moon. This is going to occupy your 6th house. So the 6th house is daily routines and responsibilities and health. Full moons are illuminations. So August 1st, during the Aquarius full moon, you will be very mindful and aware of, you know, how your daily habits affect your emotional well-being. Whether or not you're on track with your fitness goals, your nutrition regimens. For some of you, you could be completing a you know, work project, or a colleague or a peer, maybe leaving and you have a new coworker. Maybe you are taking on a new project with a coworker. It doesn't necessarily have to be a big time, but I kind of feel like it might be because really with both the Leo new moon on August 16th, the Aquarius full moon, or before that, you actually are kind of dealing with like themes of mental health and physical health. So you're thinking about, you know, how can I feel more energized day to day so that I can be more productive, honestly. And for some of you, you know, you may feel like you're getting a lot of creative downloads though through your meditation practices, through your dreams, and you with Leo in the 12th, and you want to funnel that into your work. So for some of you, you actually may be finishing a work project and starting a new one that's actually kind of interesting and really creative. So anyways, the Aquarius full moon will also feature a Mercury-Saturn opposition between your 1st house and your 7th house. You have Mars in your 1st house. So all throughout August, like Virgos are really dealing with, to be honest, a lot of conflict, a lot of arguments, and a demand for independence. So with Saturn in the 7th, relationships are not easy right now. But with Mars in the 1st, you have the courage and sort of the mettle to say, you know, I deserve better. I am okay on my own if I have to be. So a lot of you are putting your foot down. So throughout August, if not at the end of July even, some of you may have broken up with somebody. And maybe you've been dating someone else on the side, honestly, with Venus retrograde in the 12th. Maybe you've had a secretive side relationship that now you're going to do, like you're going to be with that person full time instead. I don't know. Like it honestly can be kind of a controversial time for Virgos. But generally speaking here, you want something. I think you have desires right now that are not being met by your partner. So a lot of you with Venus retrograde in the 12th, you're like, I don't really want this anymore. So a lot of you are breaking up and again, pursuing, but kind of already pursuing other people in the background with that 12th house of Venus. So, you know, just be really as transparent as possible. You know, admit like, okay, I'd rather be with this person, and just kind of like, just, you know, finish that relationship that's not so great. But otherwise, some of you are actually feeling very fitness oriented. You're building your strength up. Some of you are feeling entrepreneurial. You know, maybe some of you will quit your job and just go solo, because, you know, the 7th house doesn't have to be relationships in that romantic sense. It could be professional. So I think Virgos are really stepping into their strength at this time. Now, the Leo new moon is August 16th. That new moon squares Uranus in the 9th house. So the new moon in the 12th is almost like, it's a little confusing, actually. Like the new moon in the 12th can be a lot of different things. It could be like a new vision you have during meditation that leads to a creative output. It could be the birth of a secretive relationship or a karmic relationship. And by the way, that's something I didn't mention about just before this. Some of these relationships that you switch into might just be from past lives or, very karmic. Because I think about the 12th house as past lives. So that's certainly a possibility. It doesn't have to be a secretive relationship. It could be a past life relationship. But also with Uranus in the 9th, a lot of you continue to want to travel, explore different countries or cultures or whatnot. But with Uranus squaring the Leo moon, I think that you're looking to maybe travel somewhere behind the scenes a little bit, somewhere where you can relax. Maybe you're traveling solo as a way to meditate and reflect on your life. Now, we also have the Aries North Node in the 8th right now, so you're really building financial independence also. Now, finally, we have the Pisces full moon, August 30th in your 7th house. So yet again, we have a possible ending of a relationship, or at least an emotional moment. So I think for Virgos, also with Mercury retrograding in your 1st house at the end of the month, I think that Pisces full moon, I mean, just being honest, like it might be one of the more difficult full moons for the year for you. Like if your relationships aren't working, I think that's when you kind of communicate that. You kind of say like, I'm kind of done, I'm kind of over this. Some of you could further your commitments to somebody. If you're actually doing okay in your relationships right now, this could be a time when you just kind of take ownership of your mental well-being and respond to feedback. Because I think a lot of Virgos are getting feedback right now, really tough feedback from their partners. And it's like, if you embrace that feedback, you could actually strengthen your relationships right now. But I think for a lot of Virgos, you are feeling like you're kind of fed up with bending to somebody else's expectations. And I think you're more willing to leave a relationship behind if it's not absolutely positively, fueling your passion, right? And some of you may travel as a way to get away from that relationship. So now we have Libra. So Libra, you have the Aquarius full moon, really in your 5th house. So the Aquarius full moon in the 5th, I think is actually quite nice for creativity, creative hobbies and endeavors, for romanticism, for recreational sports. Your emotions are very heightened in a creative context or romantic context. So Libras, you could be, Libras are in a really interesting position right now, right? Because you are being less codependent with the South Node in your 1st house in Libra. You're less compromising. You're more willing to step away. Kind of like Virgos, right? You're more willing to step away from a relationship. So that Aquarius full moon, it's almost like you're feeling the romantic spark with either your current partner or someone else. And it's making you rethink, okay, do I still want to be with this other person? And other people are actually just bringing their art into the world, or they're performing in front of an audience. Because you have a lot of Leo in your 11th house right now. For Libras, this is a great time to put on a show, a concert. And with Venus retrograde in your 11th, a lot of friends who, you lost touch with are coming back. And some of you could even start a romantic relationship with a friend, especially around this time. There will be a Mercury-Saturn opposition between your 12th and 6th house. So at work, I'm not really liking the work situation at the beginning of August. It looks like a little bit, a little frustrating, like you have almost too much responsibility and you don't really appreciate it. So whatever, use that as fuel to go into your creative zone, your romantic zone, and fuel those aspects of your life. And also, by the way, you can find relationships over the next year and a half that are more self-affirming, life-affirming, and empowering, with the North Node in the 7th. And you're healing. There's immense, profound healing that can occur through your relationships with Chiron, very much near that North Node. Now, we also do have a Leo new moon, August 16th. That to me is when you have a lot of fun with your friends. Maybe you go to a party, a social gathering, and you see an ex probably at that social gathering, by the way. And so it's kind of like, what do I do about that? You know, do I talk to them? Some of you will just say, I don't want to talk to them at all. And that could honestly mess with, that could mess with your mental well-being a little bit. So like, don't let that person get into your head. So I think a lot of Libras are going to encounter an ex at a party, and it's going to make them like a little frazzled. So give yourself a break if that happens. Like, don't be too hard on yourself. Like, expect that. It's not a guarantee for every Libra, but for a lot of Libras, for sure. Venus retrograde in the 11th, you're also rethinking your social media strategy, how you're investing in your technology, how you're monetizing your social media. I think it's a good time actually for social media creators to take a different tactic and approach. Now we also have the Pisces full moon in your 6th house at the end of the month. So at the end of the month, I do think you're a little burnt out. So I think a lot of Libras they probably partied a little too hard. Yeah, I think that's what's happening. Yeah. Libras, I think you're partying a lot. I think you might be having the most the most fun and social August of any sign, but I think you're tapped out by the end of August. So I don't think it doesn't have to be a big deal. The Pisces full moon, August 30th, just like give yourself a break, maybe stop, the toxic habits and, get back to work. And that's around Labor Day, right? So get back to work and be really industrious. Now, one other thing I wanted to mention is that Uranus square to the Leo new moon, you could be finding, it doesn't really change what I've already said, but you could be finding very unique ways to, again, monetize something you're doing in groups or communities or on social media. The next we have Scorpios. Scorpio, you have the Aquarius full moon August 1st in your 4th house. The 4th house illuminates the home, the family, the foundation. So for Scorpios at the beginning of August, you may be tending to a home project. You may be moving homes, talking about your plan for your next apartment or your next home. You could be, just completing a home project, or, some of you could start a new one, or just realize like that you want to be home more often, or you want to balance your career with your home differently. Now, around that time, you're also going to have, Mercury opposite Saturn between the 11th and the 5th house. That's a time when you may be having really serious conversations with friends, or with other associates about creative projects. You also may get into a little bit of a argument or have a bit of a serious conversation with someone on social media or something, or you may just get into contact with someone who's kind of a big deal through your social media. But I think it's a really social time ultimately, because if you think about, like, for Scorpios, right, you have Jupiter and Uranus in your 7th house at the same time that you have Mars and Mercury in your 11th house. So at the 7th house and the 11th house active, I think August is like one of the most social months for Scorpio. So just do that, enjoy that. Now with Venus retrograde in your 10th, you may be reconnecting with professional colleagues, old managers, bosses, etc. And there's a Leo new moon August 16th, by the way, where, in the 10th house, you may be starting a new job. You may be thinking about your career differently, starting a new work project, launching something new that's public facing, squaring Uranus and Jupiter. You could find someone who's really willing to advocate for you, help further your career, accelerate your career, invest in your business, or someone who just like helps you think bigger about your career. So I kind of like that. For some of you, you could get in touch with a parent even who you lost touch with before. With the North Node in Aries in your 6th, you're really coming into your own sort of fitness routine. You're focused on strengthening your body, getting some muscle, etc. But I overall, I think it's a good month because it's like you're meeting a lot of new people. You're talking to a lot more people who are in your industry. These people have money, potentially they have opportunities, they have ideas. And so listen to the opinions of others this month because they will help you further your career or maybe even find a new job. The Pisces full moon is in your 5th house, so you're probably August 30th, solidifying some creative project, completing a creative project, or proving your creativity somehow. Some of you could have a very serious conversation, though, on a date with somebody about your long-term goals. So some people could just kind of like realize they want to end a situation or end a relationship because of some, I don't know, like there's maybe like a romantic moment there or something that influences the relationship you'd rather be in. And obviously for Scorpios, you have Jupiter and Uranus in the 7th house. So a lot of you are craving freedom from relationships. So on the Pisces full moon, maybe it's like, now you're having this conversation of like, I'm kind of done. I'm kind of done this relationship. I've outgrown this relationship or whatnot. So next we have Sagittarius. So Sagittarius, you have the Aquarius full moon, August 1st, in your 3rd house. So the full moon in the 3rd house, I think, is really a time when you're just having very emotional conversations with people. You're talking about maybe ending a relationship with Venus retrograde, or you're starting a new relationship, or starting a relationship with an ex all over again. But generally speaking, I don't think it has to be a huge deal. I think like, for Sages, the beginning of the month, possibly you are, well, I mean, maybe it could be a big deal because you have Mercury opposite Saturn. Yeah. So you do have Mercury opposite Saturn between your 4th and 10th. So for Sages, you may be having really serious conversations with a boss and with your parent or with your parents about something. So some of you are like maybe hearing kind of a tough answer from somebody at work about something like, oh, like you're not getting staffed on this project, or maybe you have to, maybe you just feel more responsibility for your home life, and so you can't take on this new career opportunity, or you feel like you can't balance your home life and your work life, which is kind of true right now because you have Mars and Mercury in your 10th. So it's like you desire a lot, you want to make a lot of progress in your work, you want to invest in your career, but Saturn in the 4th is saying you have obligations at home. So how you balance that out is going to say everything about how successful August is for you. So maybe at the beginning of the month, that full moon, you're having a really serious conversation with someone about like, hey, like if we're going to be a team, or we're going to cooperate as a couple or as whatever, like we need to like recalibrate here. Like I need more time to be able to work. Can we delegate differently? Now the Leo new moon, August 16th, is in your 9th house. So for some Sages actually, and by the way, this almost applies to August 1st too. Like you may be taking a trip, you may be, taking a new trip, coming back from a trip. And again, thinking about how do I balance my desires to travel with my work and my home obligations. Some of you may be facing friction at home because you want to travel a lot. Like maybe you're a musician, you want to go on tour. Maybe you're a consultant and you want to fly to that conference or that project. So really think about what are my obligations at home and how can I build a better work process? Or sorry, how can I build a better life balance generally? How can I redistribute so that I can continue working on what I really want to work on? Now that Leo new moon squares Uranus and Jupiter in your 6th. So for some of you, you could be taking a trip, an unexpected trip for work, or I've talked about this in previous months, but you could be also continuing to realize how you could be a digital nomad, and use technology like Zoom or, to work wherever you want. Now, for all of you, Venus is retrograde in your 9th. So some of you are actually rethinking investments you've made in trips. So, or even like what you value in the world. So for some of you, you may be dialing back some of the trips you originally planned to take, or for some of you, maybe you're doing more of them. North node in your 5th, this is a time to empower your creativity, which I like. So that's a sweet spot as well. So for Sagittarius, it's like you can build the career that you want, but you have to think about how much money you're spending on travel and think about how much time you're dedicating to your home life. And then the Pisces full moon at the end of the month, maybe you're moving homes at that point. Maybe you're moving out. Maybe you're saying goodbye. Maybe you're traveling away for a long time. But I think if you can't balance your life out, whoever you live with is going to have a really serious conversation with you at the end of August. So you might as well avoid that by staying on top of, again, your travel budget, how often you're traveling, tending to the home as needed, and compromising, right? Because I know what you really want as a Sag. You want to blaze that trail in your career right now with Mars in the 10th. So now we have Capricorns. Capricorns, you have the Aquarius full moon in your second house, August 1st. Second house is money, income, resources. So Capricorns, at the beginning of the month, you're having serious financial discussions with a partner or just with yourself. You're revisiting your budget. You're revisiting maybe a will or an inheritance or a trust, or you're revisiting your 401k. Capricorns are really serious right now about, their long-term financial goals, because you have Venus retrograde in your 8th house. So you may right now be rethinking, like, what asset class am I investing in? What are my savings goals? And I talked about this with Cancers too. So Cancers and Capricorns, beginning of August, you have to have serious financial discussions, either with a partner, with a cohabitant, with a family, or with yourself. We also have Mercury opposite Saturn in your 9th house and your 3rd house. So part of these financial discussions are probably related to trips that you do or don't want to take. You have the North Node in Aries in your 4th. So you're also really serious about finding a home that you can feel good about, that's helping you maybe work independently or as an entrepreneur or whatnot. So all these things I think are thematically continuous. Now you also have the Leo new moon, August 16th in your 8th house, yet again here. So by August 16th, you probably are embarking on a new financial plan, new investment plan. Some of you may be uncoupling from people financially or merging with people financially, like maybe merging with your partner with a budgeting app, merging checking accounts, like whatever that is, or uncoupling, right? And squaring Uranus in the 5th, for some Capricorns, you are finding ways, like Cancers as well, to monetize your creativity. So maybe you're securing investments for a creative project or a song that you made. Like that could be kind of fun. Now you also have a Pisces full moon, August 30th. So we conclude that month with the full moon in the 3rd house. So at the end of the month, I think you are having a conversation about, again, the long term with somebody. Maybe you're cutting off contact with somebody. Maybe you're, opening up to somebody about how much pressure you're under right now. So if you're a Capricorn, like, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Be willing to talk about it with people, because people will be there to lend an ear and a shoulder to you, I think, at that time. Mars, Mercury are conjunct in your 9th house primarily this month. So for Capricorns, I think at the end of the month with Mercury retrograde, you may have some travel delays, but a lot of you are seeking to travel right now, actually. A lot of you are seeking to travel. I think feed that, feed that. But just think about your budget, right? A lot of you, I think, are a little upset that your budget is not allowing you to take as many trips as you want. So just think about it right now. Find a way to do that, because you've got Jupiter and Uranus in your 5th. You want to have fun right now. And also, by the way, Capricorns, you have the South Node in your 10th for the next year and a half. So right now is also a time to think about, well, this is good. I am really glad I remember this. With Venus in the 8th, South Node in the 10th, you're realizing that your current job is not giving you enough money. That's what's going on here. So a lot of you are trying to find a higher paying job. So I would encourage you to continue to do that right now. And I think you want a higher paying job for a number of reasons, but especially so you can travel more often. So, and to find the home that you want, because you have the North Node in the 4th. Okay. So I think Capricorns, your mission is pretty clear, right? Find the job that allows you to get the house you want, and a job that gives you the flexibility to travel when you want. I think that to me is the clear. I think that was one of the clearest. To me, this is the clearest sign to kind of diagnose for the month. I think that's pretty obvious. So anyways, Aquarius, you got the Aquarius full moon in your first house right away, August 1st. That's an emotional cresting. Your emotions are swelling to the surface. You're feeling like letting go of something, owning up to something emotionally, letting your emotions out, letting your creativity out, leaning into your intuition. And with Venus retrograde in your 7th, I mean, this month, your exes are coming back. Like, full stop. There's almost no question about that. So exes are likely returning. They will be, who knows if they're welcome or not, right? Like, I don't know. It depends, right? But for a lot of you, my advice here would be don't let nostalgia take over. Because when Venus retrogrades in your 7th, it's very common to succumb to nostalgia. So a year and a half ago when Venus was retrograde in Capricorn, that was in my 7th house. And I absolutely leaned into nostalgia, and it was a bad idea. So with Venus retrograde in your 7th, just be very thoughtful about, your past relationships. Did they really serve me now? Probably not. But for some of you, they might. I'm not saying that you can't be with an ex again, but your exes are almost sure to creep up. Now you also have Mercury Saturn opposite between your 8th and 2nd. So having serious conversations about your long-term financial goals is almost certain. But then we have the Leo new moon August 16th in your 7th house. Now that to me is also the birth of either a new relationship or a relationship with an ex coming back. Could be the end of a relationship for some of you. But I think for Aquarius is like, in general, you're just rethinking also your values. And how do my values align or misalign with the person that I'm with right now? Right. I think that, again, do that exercise. Write down your top 5 values. Are they aligned or misaligned with your partner right now? You could also be fighting a little bit over finances when Mars and Mercury are in your 8th house. So you may not have the same financial goals as a partner right now, and that could be tripping up your relationship. Now that Leo new moon squares Uranus in your 4th house. So for a lot of you, you may be upending your life and just leaving your current apartment to go move in with a current partner, and maybe you're moving out with a current partner to go move in with an ex. Like, it's a little chaotic. So for Aquarius, like, you have to rein in your impulses, right? So just be very thoughtful. Don't just rely on your instincts. Don't trust your instincts right now. I don't tell people that very often, but you absolutely want to doubt your instincts, because I don't think your first instinct is correct. I think you have to really dwell on something and deliberate. And if you're feeling a little uneasy about your partner's financial goals, like, that's a red flag, right? That's a sign you got to get to the bottom of that. Now also, you're going to have that Pisces full moon in your 2nd house at the end of the month, August 30th. So that's very financial in a lot of ways too. So at the end of the month, you may be, again, having those really serious conversations about where am I going financially. And now the North Node, by the way, is in your 3rd house. So some Aquariuses are really solidifying their knowledge base in something, or they're trying to be the first, it's sort of an innovator or a maverick in something, like where they're pioneering a new, educational topic, or they're breaking new ground in some type of subject. That's kind of interesting. And also South Node in the 9th. Maybe you're having very karmic experiences during your travels. Yeah. So you could actually meet karmic partners from past lives on your trips overseas, like that's, or wherever, long distance. It's kind of interesting. Now also, overall, I think the themes for Aquarius are pretty obvious. Like, I don't want to overbake this or convolute this. Like, to me, the theme is you feel restless deep down. You want to change up your home life and your foundation right now. And you may see an ex as an opportunity to shuffle things around a bit. But again, I think that's ill-advised to just jump into an old relationship, because Uranus is squaring that new moon in Leo. So you can't really trust that anything is going to be sustainable there. But also, you could be reconnecting with old business partners with the 7th house. So you could be re-encountering someone who, again, you used to work with, and now they have a financial opportunity for you. But I think generally relationships will be a little tricky for Aquariuses. So don't expect your relationships, whether you're in one right now or you're not, don't expect your significant friendships, your romantic relationships, or your business partnerships to be easy this month, especially when it comes to financial matters. So for a lot of you, you also may, with Mars in the 8th, feel a little bit impulsive at this time. You may feel like doing something in secret. Like I'm seeing a little bit of controversy there. So just again, watch your instincts. Like I don't think that like your primal instincts are going to serve you actually that well. I think it's really good to be methodical and disciplined at this time. And now we have Pisces. Pisces, you have the Aquarius full moon in your 12th house. So the full moons, again, are illuminations, culminations of things. And the full moon in the 12th house, you will have vivid dreams, most likely, and you will also tend to your mental well-being. So some of you will have like, I don't know, very profound visions that just maybe give you an answer you've been looking for as to what is my purpose right now? Like, where am I trying to go? And what am I trying to create? What is my connection to the divine? And so the full moon can actually be very powerful in that way. And it could hatch a new plan for you. And by the way, you have Mars and Mercury in your 7th house all month. So just like I talked about with Virgos, Pisces are also in a phase where they're seeking independence from a relationship that's been just weighing on them. And it's not fun anymore. So a lot of Pisces is like, you're kind of done. You're kind of done with a relationship that has lost its luster. I'm not saying that you can't have a relationship or you can't stay with someone, but you're more likely than not to demand independence, to demand your own path, to say, if I'm going to be in a relationship, then it has to respect my independence. And a lot of you are going to be arguing with your partner at this time. So expect friction. It doesn't mean the relationship is over. But I think during the very beginning of the month, you're having a dream that maybe just like from a divine guidance just gives you the answer that you need. Also, you have Venus retrograde in your 6th, which actually I don't think is like the biggest deal. It can mean that like old coworkers are coming back and reconnecting with you. You may have some difficulty monetizing something that you work on day to day. But also you may be rethinking how you use your skill sets and monetize those. So for Pisces, this could be a time when you realize I'm really good. I have a specialty in this. So why not, monetize that, right? And make money off that. Other Pisces are trying to recalibrate their day-to-day routines or their jobs so that it incorporates more of their passions. So a lot of Pisces could find a job that they actually love right now. A lot of Pisces could also, on the converse, realize that they might as well monetize something that they're good at, even if they don't love it. But again, expect a lot of arguments with significant others. Doesn't mean you can't get through it, but you're really getting to the bottom of things right now. And you may especially break away from a partner if you don't have the same long-term goals, because that's what Saturn in the 1st house is for you right now. You're thinking very much about the big picture, the long term. Where do I want to be in 5 years, 10 years? So if you can't see yourself with your partner in 10 years or 5 years, then that relationship, I think, is done. You may also go back to an old job. That can happen when Venus is in the 6th. And then there's a Leo new moon, August 16th, in your 6th house. So for a lot of you, you're picking up a new, work project. You maybe have a new work relationship or colleague that you work with. Squaring Uranus in the 3rd, it's kind of exciting. So maybe you're collaborating with someone on a new technology integration. You're using technology in your job more effectively. You're being recognized for your kind of genius ideas at work. And I think that it's a time when you could be rewarded for that. So think innovatively about how you can kind of reshuffle your work, don't shy away. Again, like I said at the very beginning of this call, technology is your friend, not your enemy. Incorporate technology into that job and you will be recognized for that. Now we have a Pisces full moon on August 30th in your 1st house. To me, that's a major ending. It's a major ending, again, of a relationship or a professional commitment. And at the beginning of September, you're ready to be like, when Venus stations direct, you're like, all right, I got rid of that relationship that doesn't serve my long-term goals. I found a way to spice up my day-to-day work so that it's fun and technologically interesting. Now I'm ready to either continue to push forward in with that new type of career, to switch jobs and whatnot. So I think it's actually okay. think that new moon is that full moon is okay. You're just purging something. Now, for a lot of you, you're continuing to work on writing projects. Downloads are just flooding in. So keep writing. I know a lot of Pisces are trying to publish a book right now. Keep writing and good things will happen. Now, you also have the North Node in your second. So you're thinking about financial independence too. How can I become more financially independent? Well, it's by incorporating technology into your day-to-day, getting more efficient, getting so efficient, maybe you don't need a boss or a job. Maybe you work for yourself. And also, again, getting that financial independence by standing up for yourself in relationships and being like, I don't need this relationship anymore. I can monetize my own passions, and I can make my job work for me, and I can work for myself. Like, there's a lot of empowering transits here for Pisces. You have to love what you do, and you have to be on the same long-term trajectory as your partner. As long as you figure those things out, it's all systems go by September, when you purge some stuff from that full moon, August 30th. So in summary, I just want to summarize, what did I just talk about for the month of August? Because I know I addressed a lot of themes. So I just want to reiterate, everything I mentioned. So Venus retrograde in Leo is not anything to be afraid of. Venus retrograde is a necessary step and timeline in which you are rethinking your relationships, your money, your finances, your creativity. And by rethinking, you will come out the other side of this month with better relationships, more heartfelt relationships, a better way to monetize your creative passions, befriending technology, not running away from it, finding new communities and groups and friendships and being kind of electrified by them and inspired by them, and really owning your independence and saying, it's almost like, are you with me or not? But it's like, take it or leave it, but this is what I want to do. This is where I want to go. These are my passions, and we'll worry about whether or not, and then we'll see if you're ready to fit into that, rather than the reverse, which is what a lot of people do, which is, I'm going to mold myself to that person. I'm going to mold myself to that partner, or I'm going to create based on what other people want. This is a time of authenticity, stepping into your highest vibration, stepping into your heart chakra, activating that. And then, like, worrying about that first. So what imbues you with passion? What is an inextinguishable flame within you? Finding that, reclaiming that, and worrying only after that about the types of people in your life who are already aligned with that passion. So that's what August is all about. If you want to learn astrology from me, download my astrology guidebook below. I'm also teaching intro, intermediate, and advanced astrology courses in October. And this is a little bit in advance, but look out for my 2024 forecast videos later this year. I will be hosting those as well through my website. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a great August.